bit of power flute, Blake.
Power flute.
I think we can go. You want to go?
Oh, we can go, Michael.
All right, let's go.
Michael, we can go. What is going on, Playmakers?
Background little fringe for you.
Yes, sir. Bring in the fringe. You just let me know when they can see our beautiful faces, Michael.
Oh, that's a good call. I should probably do that.
You should probably do that.
There you go.
There we go. Look at that. The Prince of Podcast Producers. My man. Playmakers, what's going on? It is Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. Welcome to the Working the Wire podcast. I am the host, Blake. You can follow me on Twitter at Blake. The aforementioned Prince of Podcast Producing. To my left, your right. The advocate for avocado toast, the sultan of social distancing, the who's who of Whole30. Big Play Beats. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, man, I'm living it up. It's been a good, busy week. A lot of action in the NFL, a lot of, again, injuries, unfortunately. So we got a lot to cover, but hopefully we got some answers for people. Yeah, hopefully we have some answers.
Absolutely, my friend. Make sure I can see the. Okay, I can see the chat. We're good. Just want to make sure I can see all the playmakers and all the hundreds and hundreds of questions we're going to get asked tonight. So, but Michael, yeah, you prefaced it, my friend. A crazy week in the NFL. We're going to get into a lot tonight. First things first. 3 and out, my friend. Let's talk some NFL stories. Mike, the trade deadline is fast approaching, my friend. Matter of fact, it will actually come and go before our show is live next Tuesday as it passes on the 3rd at 4 o'clock Eastern. Mike, couple notable trades so far. The Dallas Cowboys sent Everson Griffin to the Lions for a conditional 6th-round pick. Yannick Ngakoue gets traded for the second time this season, going from Minnesota to Baltimore for a 2021 third and then a conditional 5th-round pick in 2022. Mike, we've heard rumors of guys, young guys like Dwayne Haskins, Sam Darnold, David Njoku being on the block, along with veteran names like Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, AJ Green, Kerryon Johnson, guys who are, we've gotten the cookie cutter. We're not shopping these guys' responses from sources, right? Mm-hmm. But Mike, when we think about the trade deadline and we think about fantasy football, what are some names, or who are some names rather, that you'd like to see dealt, where to, and then what would the fantasy impact be?
Okay, so I'll start with quarterbacks here. Right now there's a ton of there's been a lot of action on the defensive side of the ball where there's like real interest and everything like that. So these are these are a little bit hypothetical, but the quarterbacks I'd like to see, Sam Darnold, like you mentioned, Dwayne Haskins, and the third that I would love to see get moved is Jameis Winston. I mean, he's a fantasy darling if he's on the right team, and he's going to push the ball downfield. So the thing I want for all three of these guys is none of them to go to Dallas. I don't want anything to do with Dallas this year. So that's the first thing. Avoid Dallas. The one I'm thinking is maybe Chicago. They spent money, but maybe they're thinking it's the QB room that's the issue and not the awful play calling. I could see something like that. Or another one that I think would be interesting is Darnold for Trubisky in a swap. Let Darnold come there. They know he's in a rough situation. The coaches don't blame themselves. You don't really lose too much in capital in a swap. And then the Jets kind of might throw some people off the center. They might try to figure out if Trubisky has something in there, use his legs a little more or something. But I think the Jets are trying for Trevor Lawrence here. And I think that's why we're seeing Trevor Lawrence talk about maybe he'll sit around for a year, depending on who's in the front office and who's the head coach there. But I'd love to see Darnold get a fresh start here, get away from the New York Jets and that dumpster fire.
Yeah. No, and I think a lot of those names you just mentioned make a lot of sense. I'd hate to see a guy like Dwayne Haskins or Sam Darnold get traded and be relegated to basically a backup role, but it does appear like that's what it's going to be, unless it's to a place that has a struggling starter like Chicago. You mentioned Dallas because Dak's out. The other team that I started thinking about as we started talking more about this today was the New England Patriots. We saw Sunday, Cam starting to struggle. Bill Belichick's not afraid to pull the plug there.
No.
So, Mike, I guess when it comes to quarterbacks, those are the names that I would like to see move just for a change of pace. Especially in Chicago, where you have the defense that can play with anybody. You have a couple playmakers at wide receiver. Allen Robinson fantasy owners would be very, very pleased with a change of quarterback in Chicago.
I think you called him Big Picnic. He did not look good.
There were several opportunities
down the field, and he just missed them. And when your defense is that solid, you've got to flip the field position. You've got to get those big plays, and he just isn't making the throws. And we know, I think going into the year, we were very clear that we both thought Trubisky was not the answer. So I could see them trying to. It would be really nice to see somebody like that. Blake, do you have? I have a couple wide receivers if you want to get into those as well.
Yeah, one that just came into discussion here this afternoon, really before we went live, was Adam Thielen. Minnesota. Lot of traction on there. I think even our guy Sir Yacht was posting that there was some interest from the Browns. You'd love to see Adam Thielen in orange and brown, right? Go with Baker Mayfield. Only problem there, I think they have a few Adam Thielens already on that team. Adam Thielen doesn't strike me as a guy that takes the top off of defense, but he's one of the best route runners in the NFL. He's very reminiscent of a Jarvis Landry, right?
Yeah, so he's Jarvis to me.
With some better ball skills and things like that. But he's a name I'd like to see moved, just because I think that situation in Minnesota is bad. They got to figure out what they're going to do. Yeah, it's getting bad quickly, and I feel for my guy Rick Spielman. He wore the same helmet that's right behind me. He's a local guy here, him and his brother Chris. So I feel for the headache he's dealing with up there. The other guy, and this actually come up Sunday during the Browns game, about a David Njoku for John Ross swap between the Browns and the Bengals. Both guys are disgruntled. Both guys went out of their current situations. So, a trade for a John Ross who, let's face it, has been pretty grossly underutilized in Cincinnati, and that was with the previous regime with Marvin Lewis and now with Zach Taylor. So, he's a guy I would like to see get a chance somewhere else. Wouldn't mind seeing him in Green Bay to go along with Devontae Adams. Be that complementary option to Devontae Adams. You may see him in a Baltimore scenario. Obviously, probably not in division, but that sort of scenario where they just need that one more guy to get them over the edge.
With John Ross's speed, I like him in New England. Their receivers can't get separation. So as much as I think Cam did not play well this last week, his receivers aren't helping him. John Ross with that, we saw at the combine, he's explosive. He could be a good fit there as well. That would be one that I think would at least be interesting and maybe help them take the top off, which I think they need to get people out of the box to help them out in New England.
Would you say John Ross, of the handful of names that are being discussed out there on Twitter and wherever you get your sporting news, would you say John Ross, of the quarterbacks we mentioned, Adam Thielen I wouldn't count as a boom potential just because he's already pretty damn good.
Yeah,
would you say of the names that are being floated out there, John Ross has the biggest boom potential if he moves situations?
Yeah, I think if he gets in the right situation, he could blow up because of what his speed. He's elite speed. You get him on the outside and teams that run the ball well. So that's where we said, like Green Bay, I think it's a great mix because Devontae Adams, I don't know if there's a better route runner right now. He's up there for me. So why not let John Ross take the top off? They have Scantling there, but I mean, I don't know if you can just beat that depth there that he would add for them. So he, for me, is the most likely to actually get moved because of the overall, like his level of just being unhappy there and just they don't need him in Cincinnati. That's one thing they actually don't need at all. They have plenty of wide receivers. T. Higgins is really balling out. Tyler Boyd absolutely balling out on your fantasy squads.
Playmakers are welcome for the T. Higgins lock last week. By the way,
that was a really nice pick for you.
Although I do have a shameful admission coming up in our Triple U segment coming up. So I can't be fully happy with that game. But Mike, couple other guys that just to wrap up this part of the segment. You know, Jack Doyle is another name we're hearing floated out there. Royce Freeman, you know, Kerryon Johnson, a couple running backs that are being a little bit underutilized where they're at. Could a team like Seattle swoop in, grab one that's having issues? Man, did I call that one or what, Mike? Chris Carson injury issues. Did I not warn everybody about that?
Yeah, it killed me. I had 2 leagues where I was within 15 points in PPR when he goes down, so it really hurt with his not being on the field. Those guys you mentioned, like Royce Freeman, he could really help with that, with their injuries there. They got multiple guys who are unhealthy in Seattle.
Yeah, their top 3 options are carrying a designation at this point in the week.
Yep, that's rough. Kerryon Johnson, when they drafted Swift and they brought in AP, you really were like, where does he fit in? I would love to see him land in a place like Vegas, so as a good backup to Jacobs. The Jets, he'd be him and Frank Gore, Father Time, or maybe a stopgap in San Fran.
I said Kerryon Johnson, and I meant to tweet this out earlier, and I didn't. I got caught up with something. Kerryon Johnson to any team in the AFC East.
Okay. Yeah.
Miami, compliment to Gaskin.
Mm-hmm.
New York, probably the lead guy, or a compliment to Gore. Buffalo, he'd see the ball less than the other 3 spots, but could be a spell between the 20s for Singletary. So yeah. I would love to see him at any point in the AFC. So AFC East, rather.
I like that as a landing spot, yeah.
So, but Mike, we landed in a pile of you-know-what here in 2020, and of all the things we thought we'd never see this year, a few things come to mind, right? We think of concerts, we think of full sports stadiums, you getting a haircut, and a team dumb enough to sign Antonio Brown, my friend. Well, we were wrong on at least one of those things, because over the weekend it was reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter that Antonio Brown will be signing a 1-year deal worth just above league minimum with Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Total value ended up being around $2.5 million, all incentives considered. Mike, I'll start. This makes no sense to me. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. I noticed on Monday that there was a mass just panic on the waiver wire for Antonio Brown, just like there was last year when he went bebop between 3 different teams or whatever it was. But Mike, overall though, this move, in my opinion, makes 0 sense for the Bucs. You have the league's best scoring defense right now, an emerging stud at running back. You have, when healthy, I will give you the caveat, they're not the healthiest unit right now. When healthy, arguably the best wide receiver core in the NFL, between Mike Evans, Godwin, Scotty Miller. So this move doesn't make a ton of sense to me, and it makes me really wonder what's going on in Tampa. An organization that's being run by a guy like Bruce Arians and Tom Brady. Let's face it, Tom helps run the show. Why would they make a move like this? It just doesn't make sense to me, Mike. I just, given everything we've seen with Antonio Brown, don't get me wrong, talent's undeniable, right? Antonio Brown, best top 5 receiver of the last 10, 15 years. I would think everybody would agree with that.
Absolutely.
But at this point, when everything seems to be rolling with the Bucs, why would you even think about bringing in this kind of an albatross? Mike, I'll let you comment.
Yeah, I can't disagree there. Why would you inject what has been like pandemonium when he went to the Raiders, the end of his tenure in Pittsburgh? Look, the court cases don't help, but Arians came out and stated that he's like, they're going to let the courts do their job, and they're going to say if he's guilty or not. And if he is, they won't have him. If he isn't, then we'll keep him. So that's kind of where they landed there. What's interesting is this was reported prior to the game, right? So Godwin is now out. So they were already planning on doing this with a healthy Godwin. Godwin's out for the week with that fractured finger. The only thing I could think is that Tampa Bay is like, we can't take any risks. They think this is their window. You have this young defense that seems to be peaking. Tom Brady still has it, apparently. So that's where I'm kind of thinking that that's the only logic I have is they're like, hey, here's our window. We've got to get it. Fantasy wise, I hate it. I really do. It muddies the water just a little bit more in Tampa. That's so many mouths to feed. Evans is elite. Godwin's elite. And like AB, last time he played, he was an elite receiver talent-wise. So now you have to spread that around. Rojo, as you said, is just being absolutely great downhill, but you saw this last week. He started to tailor back because Leonard Fournette got a ton of touches. And then for me, I get even concerned that if we're on the waiver wire and you're looking at, hey, I need somebody to play in this plug-and-play deep week, guys like Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller, like, they're gone. I just don't even trust them as a plug-and-play with all those mouths to feed. So the talent perspective, 100% agree with you. People are going to pick them up. They're going to have to take a shot on them, especially with all the injuries we have going on. But as an organization, I don't really follow it. It's a question mark to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Everything's going right, or the classic saying, rather, if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
I land in that.
It legitimately makes me wonder if this is a move by Tom Brady to help a buddy out. It honestly seems like that type of move. I mean, they reportedly were not close in New England, but they got along and everything else. So it almost makes me feel like there was some sort of personal thing here. I don't know. It's just a really weird scenario. And Mike, weird scenarios followed us into week 7 of the NFL. Our friend, the injury bug, came back on Sunday and Monday. So just to give you guys some notable injuries here, Steelers wide receiver Deontay Johnson, lower leg injury rather. Browns have a couple guys banged up. Austin Hooper's out with some appendicitis. Speedy recovery to him. Browns wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. done for the year, tore his ACL. Hoping to see him back out there next year. A couple other guys, Andy Dalton, concussion protocol. Not sure if he'll play this week. He's day-to-day. A couple running backs here. Philip Lindsay, he's also out with the concussion. Chris Carson, the aforementioned injury problem, dealing with a foot injury. And then Kenyon Drake, who we'll talk a little bit more about here in the show later, carted off with an ankle injury. And then you mentioned Chris Godwin with his fractured index finger. Yep. So, Mike, it seems like this year's theme has been injuries, and of the group from this past weekend that we just mentioned, that handful of guys, or if there's another guy that I didn't mention, which one of these guys impacts fantasy football the most by being absent?
For me, it's actually Kenyon Drake.
Okay.
And I say this in the sense that him with that slight tear, high ankle sprain, this makes Chase Edmonds an RB1 candidate. This is where you have a guy that you stashed and you played in your flex position now becomes one of your top players. And it's just because that offense is humming. They have scored 203 points. That matches the Seahawks. And then you're going to see the increased quality touches. So I think that's the biggest impact because it takes a guy who is like, hey, can I play him? Should I? Like, you're questioning. We're getting the questions on Ask WTW about him, comparing him with like wide receiver 3s, things like that some weeks. And now it's like, well, he's an RB1. So Chase Edmonds becomes that because Kenyon Drake. Did you have somebody in mind that you were thinking was the biggest impact, Blake?
Yeah, and this is going to seem like a homer pick, but it's Chris Carson. And, like I said, I mentioned it earlier in the season. I think our first show this year, I mentioned, the red flags about Chris Carson and really all the Seahawks running backs. And Mike, the problem with Chris Carson being out missing any time is it really has a snowball effect on the rest of the Seahawks offense. Obviously, he's a top 10 running back right now in most standard formats and the unquestioned workhorse in Seattle. He's even shown some pretty significant improvements in the pass catching game. Mike, the other thing that having Chris Carson out and really the top 3 options, like I just mentioned, out for Seattle, is that this running game historically, since Russell Wilson's been the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, has always set up the passing game of Pete Carroll's offense. That threat of Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, DJ Dallas, they've had that threat, and it allows guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett to get downfield and do what they do. Yeah. So really, it's not just his fantasy impact that it's impacting. He's also impacting Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, even a guy like Greg Olsen. So
Yeah.
he's not only affecting his personal value, but he's also affecting the value of those around him. And trust me, in a league where we've mentioned my dynasty league where I have Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson. That's a league where I'm probably starting Lamar once, Seattle's on a bye this week, or Baltimore's on a bye this week, so it's obviously a no-brainer who's starting. But moving forward, I'm going to take a look at those matchups that much more intently, because if they're playing a team that has no problem stuffing the run, they're just going to throw 7-8 back and say, go ahead.
Yeah.
So
just play
it's
six
one of
in
those,
the box and let them try to beat them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things we'll be paying pretty close attention to moving forward. And guys, another thing we'll be paying close attention to moving forward is our film room segment, which we will talk again this week. And I think we'll do this the rest of the year, Mike, because we've gotten some pretty good feedback about it. Our usual unexpected and ugly performances of week 7. And Mike, I'll start. And I think this has been the most quiet top 10 running back campaign ever, by the way.
Yes.
My usual suspect, Todd Gurley, running back for the Atlanta Falcons. The last touchdown, be damned. It was a great performance. 23 carries, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns, added a couple catches. But like I said, Mike, this is the most quiet top 10 running back fantasy performance I think we've ever seen. I mean, nobody's talking about Todd Gurley, right? Other than Todd Gurley, maybe. So 9.5 or more points in 5 out of 7 weeks. Having a big season, Mike. So this is right in line with where he's been all season. Unfortunately for them, their defense stinks, so a lot of times they're not running the ball. But despite that, he's having a solid season. I think he's rated 8th or 9th in most standard formats. So
yeah,
definitely continuing the good work there. Mike, here's where I have been humbled a little bit, my friend. So as much as I like to say all the good I do for the playmakers, this is one I steered them wrong. Unexpected performance this week. Tyler Boyd, wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals, had 11 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. I don't remember the exact hell no, hell yeah question last week, but I believe it was, did I think he was going to have a good game or something along those lines? And I told you undoubtedly that he would not have a good game, and I was very wrong. Actually, both of those teams surprised me quite a bit on Sunday, so I think everything I've ever said about Joe Burrow is coming to fruition. So, but Mike, a guy you just mentioned who's probably going to be on the shelf for a little bit, but these stats all came before that injury. Kenyon Drake, running back for the Arizona Cardinals, he is getting into what I like to call matchups only territory. So basically, you're only playing him if the matchup's super, super beneficial. So, like last week against Dallas. So Seattle's defense is atrocious, Mike. I'll be the first one to tell you that. And he had a terrible game before getting injured. So I would definitely be keeping an eye on Chase Edmonds if I'm a Kenyon Drake owner. I'd be keeping an eye on a couple other items to help fill that void, but not that there's been much of a void this year from him. Mike, who'd you have this week?
All right. Before I get into mine, we got a question from one of our playmakers out there. It's from Bars in the Tuck. He said, hey guys, should I trade DJ Moore and Mike Davis for Fulgham, Devontae Parker, and Montgomery? He's trading with the CMC, the Christian McCaffrey owner. Thanks. Let's see. So you
would be getting Mike Davis and who?
No, he'd be giving up DJ Moore and Mike Davis, and he'd be getting Fulgham, Devontae Parker.
So essentially, this is DJ Moore because Mike Davis is going to be out of a job after the next couple days.
Yeah. So are you willing to take those options? Oh, this is a tough one because I like the boom of DJ Moore, but Fulgham has been getting the opportunities, getting the targets, right? Devontae Parker, we have a question mark coming in, right? Tua, as much as he's a high draft pick, I have a question mark there. But then Montgomery, he is like this middling guy he's like the running back I would kill for people to. I would love the Bears to go pick somebody up. That's a nice spot. If the Bears could add some electricity to that backfield, that'd be nice. Wow, but that's tough because the one thing you can't replace are those touches, right?
See, I always ask this question and this playmaker, and for some reason, Mike, I'm not seeing the chat. I have like a gray screen over it or something.
Can you see that now? Sorry.
No, I can't. That's okay. The one question I guess I would ask this playmaker, who are the rest of your receivers? that's what's going to really weigh in on this. What production are you losing from DJ Moore? Because really, this is a 1-for-3 trade. This Mike Davis, for all intents and purposes, is going to be basically null and void here probably this week. They're saying McCaffrey's probably going to play this week. So, I mean, as long as you have decent starters, if DJ Moore's a backup, I think you're replacing him with Devontae Parker. As far as Fulgham's concerned, he is what he is. He's getting, like you said, a lot of the targets. So yeah, I think at this point in the year and at this point in what's going on with Christian McCaffrey, I would probably do that deal.
Okay. It looks like he just responded that he's got Chark, Scary Terry, AB, and Debo and Dez.
Oh yeah, I would do that.
Yeah,
because Debo's going to be out a couple weeks, but he's going to be back in the fold. Yeah, say the three again. It was Terry, Scary Terry.
Scary Terry, AB, and Dez.
Chark was the first one you said.
Oh, Chark.
And Chark's a starter. He's a top receiver. So yeah, I think you're safe to make that bet.
I think for him they get a running back, right? Because Mike Davis is no longer valuable to them after this week. You get Montgomery. Yeah. You can at least play Montgomery with volume. We have another one from Kellis Talks. Wow, this is a huge trade.
I still can't see the screen. So
I'm so sorry. The chat is not refreshing in that one, so I'm bringing it up on a different window. I could try to see if you could show it.
That's no big deal. But who are we asking for here?
We are asking for.
Who are we getting? Who are we asking for?
We are asking for.
There we go. Now
Watson, Chark. Yeah, you can see it now. There you go.
Yep.
We've got Watson, Chark, Moore, AJ Brown, Woods. Oh my gosh. Andrews and AJ Brown. Oh, sorry, I actually misread it. So he wants Andrews and AJ Brown for Kelsey, Boyd, Claypool, and Bernard.
So Mark Andrews, AJ Brown.
Yeah.
For Kelsey for Andrews, that's a 1-to-1. You're getting the 1 for the 3 right now. So really, it becomes AJ Brown for Boyd, Claypool, and Bernard.
I feel like I'd say yes.
That's a lot. That's a lot of Bengals, but yeah, I would probably do that trade as well.
Well, Boyd has just been consistent this season. He's getting all the targets. I love it.
Boyd's been consistent. Kels is obviously a top 3. Him and Andrews are interchangeable, right? And I have a little more confidence in Mahomes, at least at this point in the season. AJ Brown, you're losing. You're losing a little bit of production there in terms of between Boyd and Claypool, but I think as far as the boom potential for Claypool, Bernard's going to be in probably again this week. It looks like Mixon may still be banged up. It's a little unclear, but yeah, I'd probably do that one as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and one final one.
So we'll do one more, and then we'll move on. Then we'll try to catch some at the end too.
Yep, that's a good call. CeeDee Lamb and Michael Thomas for McCaffrey.
Oh man.
I would say no.
I would probably say no as well. Unless that's a keeper league. Unless that's a dynasty league. I'd like a little bit of clarification there, but yeah, that's a lot of Bengals. Somebody like that in the chat. But Mike, you actually have AJ Brown coming up here, so let's get into your usual and unexpected guys.
My usual TJ Hawkinson. It's not that he's just killing it. He's not like the most amazing, but he has been between 9.3 points to 16.9 points in PPR. It's nothing crazy, but he's super consistent. This week was saved by that game-winning touchdown. He's averaging 5 targets per game and has 4 TDs so far in the season, so he's my usual suspect. My unexpected, AJ Brown. I was wrong on this one. I want to be very clear. I thought he was an absolute boomer bust, and I was on the bust side for this one. And he went for 6 receptions, 153 yards, and receiving touchdowns. To kind of caveat where I said I was wrong, he did get saved a little bit by that 72-yard touchdown catch and run.
Right.
But it was unexpected to me because I think that Steelers defense is just absolutely phenomenal. And I did not see him having a boom week. And then the ugly, this is a pretty obvious one for me, Cam Newton. It was historically bad for Cam. 98 passing yards, 19 rushing yards, and 3 interceptions. The one thing that is nice if you are a Cam owner and if you believe it was just a bad game, Belichick did say he was unequivocally the starter. I don't think that's very hard when you had Hoyer and Stidham and how bad they looked in his absence. But that was my ugly for the week. Cam Newton.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely some apprehension moving forward in New England. It's going to be interesting to see how that one shakes out. But
Yep.
Mike, speaking of locking things down,
Yeah.
let's hit our
Thanks for
fantasy locks for the week, buddy.
Yes, I want to give
Yeah, thanks
Bars
for
in the Tuck.
questions. Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for the questions first off, and then Bars in the Tuck. Thanks for the sub.
yeah, appreciate that, guys. Yeah,
Heck
guys,
yeah.
please tell your friends. We're here to help. Mike, last week's lock for me, my friend, T. Higgins, Cincinnati Bengals. I'm taking a win this week, my friend. I'm up to 4 out of 7. Uh, Again, the guys had no less than 7 targets since week 3, and I think that just continued. So had a big week. You know, definitely think that him and Joe Burrow are starting to develop a rapport that's going to be seen for many years to come. So I'm very excited about the future of that Bengals offense. They, albeit I said, that's a lot of Bengals here a few minutes ago. The reason being is because the Bengals are usually playing from behind, but so Bernard's going to lose some production value there. But yeah, he definitely had a nice game. Cannot complain one bit about T. Higgins. But Mike, my guy this week was actually my wire fire pickup last week, and that's Boston Scott, running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. Mike, I think I might make whatever running back's playing the Cowboys my lock for the rest of the season. The Cowboys
Bad idea.
are that bad. Looks like Miles Sanders still going to be out this week, still dealing with that knee injury. The passing game's got one body down with Ertz and Goddard out. And Boston Scott can catch out of the backfield. His lone touchdown this past week come on a pass. So I like Boston Scott. They like to give it to him on the goal line, so it's not remiss to say that he would get some goal line touches. Obviously they're going to have. I think Clement's going to come back and take some carries, but as far as for the here and now, I think Boston Scott's the way to go this week. What say you, buddy?
All right, last week I had Zach Moss. I was hoping for a little bigger week, but I did say I thought he was going to shake the rust off, come up from his 1 point week. I gave myself 0.75. I was hoping for a 14 to 15 point. He ended up with 10.2 points.
We're getting far too into our decimal points here.
I think we just keep going with it. I think that's where we just let that rabbit hole open up and we go down it.
So I think we give you a half a point and just bring you straight to 3 points.
I want to make the argument for 0.75.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, so look, he had 1 point the week before, and it was very clear that the Bills did not overly prepare for this Jets team. I think they ran pretty base stuff, and they just didn't care whether or not they as long as they beat the Jets, they were fine with it. They did not look to put any window dressing on it, so I think it was just a very bland thing, and I like that he got the usage, so I'm excited about that. So I'm giving myself that. He didn't get in the end zone, he still had 10.2 points, so I was very happy with it. All right, this week I'm going to go with Derek Carr, and I'm saying him as my lock. He's 30% owned. You've got Watson, Kyle Allen, Minshew, and Kyler Murray out. There are going to be a lot of teams looking for a streaming quarterback. Look, he's got the second best matchup in the league for quarterbacks against Cleveland. He hasn't used his legs a ton this year, so I think there's some upside there. He's only got like 53 yards rushing, but he usually is a pretty athletic guy and usually adds a couple points by just running the ball. And right now, I think he's in the top 12 for fantasy points per game for a quarterback. So anybody in the need of a streamer this week, I think he is a great guy, and I think he's going to go around 21 points. I think the Browns, in a competitive game, I think he's going to have to score a few touchdowns. And if for whatever reason the Browns are dominating or they're up, they give up points to quarterbacks. We saw with the young Joe Burrow. I think you could see that. I see a connection with him and Henry Ruggs this week for big yards, big touchdown too.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that. I actually have been very high on Carr. He's definitely coming back into his own this year. And I mentioned it, I think it was last week or the week before. I thought that marriage with Gruden was going to take a couple years, and I think we're starting to see a little bit of progress with old Chucky. Michael, let's jump into Hell No, Hell Yeah next, my friend. And I have a common theme to my questions for you this week. Mike, the Ravens just signed Dez Bryant to their practice squad today. Yeah. The second troubled veteran receiver to be signed in as many days. Mm-hmm. Mike, Hell No, Hell Yeah. Will Dez Bryant ever play meaningful snaps for the Ravens?
Hell no. At most, he'll get a couple red zone targets. Which to some people are meaningful, but there's no way I'm starting him based on 1 or 2 targets in the red zone. He just was lacking the ability to get separation. He has seemed to become a little more humble in his absence from the NFL. So maybe he's a different player and he's been working on other stuff and he won't be as much of a distraction. I just don't see it with his inability to get separation.
Didn't even give yourself the music. There you
go. Thank you for the reminder.
Michael, I teased it. The second veteran receiver, Antonio Brown. Will he catch a Will he catch a touchdown from Tom Brady this season?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh.
Look, when he's on the field, there it is. When he's on the field, he is just an absolute talent. Plus, we've talked about how that team is hitting on all cylinders. At some point, a team is going to pick a poison, and it's not going to be Antonio Brown, and he's just going to break free. Whether it's in a red zone or something, I think he at least scores one touchdown. He'll probably score a few, as long as he can stay out of trouble or stay out of, like, honestly, the problem with him has been the issues with his teammates and his coaches, right? So as long as Tom Brady can keep him in line, and it seems like we haven't had as many news stories about AB going nuts. So if he can keep his, I will make you this bet. I will make you this bet, Mike, right now. Okay. Playmakers as my witness. I will set the line at a half a touchdown and take the under for a 6-pack of the winner's choosing. Heck yeah, I'm in.
Okay, virtual shake.
You sure you want to do? So you just want to do half a touchdown? I would do 1.5.
He will not have a touchdown for the Bucs this year.
All right, I think one.
That's total touchdowns, not just from Tom Brady. That's period.
Yeah, I think he definitely gets. I think he breaks that easy. All right.
So.
All right, Blake. I'm gonna give you a little hometown question here.
Okay.
Does Jimmy G have a bounce back game against the Seattle Seahawks? Does he score in standard leagues over 15 points this week? Hell no, hell yeah.
Regretfully, hell yeah. Mike, the Seahawks defense is bad. They are very, 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 very bad. And Shaquille Griffin just went down. Probably going to miss this game. So, yeah, I think the Niners have a great game. I don't think they go crazy. I don't expect a huge day, but above 15 points, absolutely. They're signing running backs from the unemployment line at this point.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about one of those guys here in a few minutes. But he's got George Kittle still. Deebo Samuel is banged up. Brandon Ayuk, or however you want to say his last name. He sounds like an anime character. He's shown some promise. So, yeah, the Seahawks are going to have nobody back there to cover. Jamal Adams, it's still up in the air if he's going to play this week. If him and Griffin are both out, you and I could go play DB for the Seahawks. It's ridiculous. So that is a very confident hell yeah.
Very large defensive backfield.
I would be the biggest defensive back ever, and I'm not even, I'm not even, I'm that big, but.
Hey, we got one of my favorite comments. So first off, let's say hello to Jose Perez. Thank you for stopping by. One of my favorite comments is Brother Ed comes in. He goes, "If you love crazy, drunk housewives level news, AB is your guy." I got a good kick out of that.
I do.
All right, I got one more hell yeah for you. Is Rashard Higgins with OBJ's season-ending injury? Is he a must pick up in redraft leagues?
It's funny because you beat me to the point in our next segment. Hell yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if I saw that news.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally, somebody has learned to use it. It took them sacrificing Odell Beckham, unfortunately. And I will say, I had a little back and forth with some people on Twitter on Sunday regarding this because I saw way too many Browns fans trying to say that the Browns will be better off without Odell Beckham Jr. I'll say it again, just so I can make it clear. You're not only wrong, you're stupid if you think that. Because Odell Beckham, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, disregard all the off the field crap, disregard his prima donna nature. Odell Beckham Jr., when healthy, is still a top 10 receiver in this league, and the Browns don't have another top 10 receiver in the league on their roster. So stop with that crazy narrative that they're somehow better off without Odell. Now, will it make Baker play a little more balanced? I can't argue that fact. But in terms of are they better off, is Baker better off? No. It's like saying you took one bullet out of your gun in war. You're not better off. You're just not. So, but when it comes to Rashard Higgins, I think him and Baker have a great relationship. I think this just proves why Freddie Kitchens was completely in over his head, when it comes to being a head coach. The guy can play, man. He can really play. And I mean, he's only owned, in a handful of leagues. I think you have the number coming up here. the specific number, but he's a guy that I'm definitely looking to pick up this week. And it's not to say that he's going to be some 20, 30 point a game. He's not going to be a Justin Jefferson, right, that comes out of the woodwork. But
No.
could he get you 60 yards and a touchdown? Absolutely.
Yeah. I see him in that 14 to 17 points per game now that OBJ's out, because he's just going to get the snaps, and they're going to be throwing in advantageous situations if they're running the ball well.
I feel like a lot of that's going to predicate on Nick Chubb coming back healthy. So.
Oh, yes.
But Michael, wire fire time, my friend. Guys, so this is the part of the show where we talk a little bit about who you should pick up this week. This is week 8, so just some notable guys that will be off on bye weeks this week, just in case you forgot or haven't checked. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Lamar Jackson, Terry McLaurin, Deshaun Watson, David Johnson, James Conner, and all of the Steelers wide receivers will be out this week. So, Mike, last week, I said Boston Scott, Cole Beasley, both had decent games. Anthony Firkser, I don't even know that he played a snap. So we won't go too much into last week, my friend. But this week I have a couple newbies, and I mentioned it here in the previous segment. JaMycal Hasty, running back from San Francisco. Both of my picks this week are owned in under 9% of leagues. Mm-hmm. Hasty is owned in 6.6% of leagues on ESPN.com. Mike, the Niners injuries in the backfield are just unreal right now. It's at a crazy pace. The fact just how fast these guys keep getting knocked out. Really, the whole team goes back to even the first couple weeks when Nick Bosa and those guys went down. The Niners are banged up and still rolling. So it's impressive what they've been able to do.
Deserves credit.
Yeah. Kyle Shanahan should 100% be up for Coach of the Year this year. So, but he had 9. When Wilson went down with some injuries last week, he come in, had 9 carries for 57 yards. He's going to be the guy this week. And, I think with how bad the Seahawks defense has been, especially against the pass, they're probably going to be playing from behind. So who is it for me to say that Hasty won't be getting the ball maybe in some garbage time? So definitely looking for him to pick up the slack this week. The other guy, Mike, and we talked a lot about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today, is Scotty Miller from the Tampa Bay Bucks, owned in 8.6% of leagues. This is a 1-week special, though, Mike.
I agree.
You're not going to have
1 week special.
This is a 1-week special. No Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown probably won't be ready in time. He'll probably be active for week 9, but not for week 8. And that's still, you're still going to need time to learn the offense, things like that. So a week or 2 at most for Scott Miller, because boy, does Tom Brady love him some undersized Caucasian wide receivers, my friend.
He does.
He loves this guy, and he's playing well. In the absence of these weapons, he's really stepped into that void. So Scotty Miller, a guy I'm going to be looking long and hard at this week. Mike, who do you got?
All right, I'm sticking in Tampa Bay, and I say this, it's a matchup thing here. LeSean McCoy, he's owned in less than 2, he's in 2% of leagues. Look, this is a pretty desperation move. We are challenging ourselves in this wire fire. Look, they're playing the Giants. They're decent against the run, but that offense is terrible, and we've seen how well that Buccaneers defense dominates teams. I think you're going to see a lot of positive game flow. I think you're going to see them rest Fournette and Rojo once they get a significant lead, because they're going to want them healthy down the stretch. So I think McCoy is going to get a lot of handoffs in the second quarter, third and fourth quarter, and they're just going to run away with this game. So he's a guy that if you're really desperate for a running back, if you're one of the guys like me who's burned by Mostert earlier in the year, and then you have several other guys going down, or you got anybody on bye week, James Conner, this is a guy you can get at the last minute and you can plug him in and play him, especially if you don't get the higher up. If you don't get him Hasty or somebody, like I'd rather have Hasty over LeSean McCoy this week. But if you can't get them, you lose your waiver wire bid or you're lower down. I think McCoy could get you some points this week. I think he's going to be 10 plus. He's going to get the touches, and I think it's purely game flow. And then obviously we've talked about it a little bit before. Hollywood Higgins, owned in less than 5% of leagues on Yahoo. With OBJ out, there's one thing you can't deny is that chemistry. He is going to get touches. He's going to be on the field, and they make connections. I see this being a very good setup for him. And this is not a 1 week special though. This is for the rest of the season. You can stash him. I would play him in the right matchups, and especially after this week. I think you can play him this week right away if you're hurting. If any of those Steelers wide receivers are on your squad or anything like that. But yeah,
I like it. I like it, man. Mike, we're gonna wrap up with a question from the head playmaker himself,
Okay.
Big Play Dave, told him we would get around to his question on the show this evening. Offered an interesting trade in a 16-man league. He was offered Matt Ryan, Mike Evans, and J.D. McKissick for Dalvin Cook. Currently, his quarterback is Baker. He just lost Odell Beckham. His current running backs are Leonard Fournette, Boston Scott, and then the aforementioned Dalvin Cook. Mike, he's thin. He's thin in a lot of spots.
Yes, he really is.
So no pun intended, Dave. But it's that's a rough spot to be in. Here's my thing. Right now, you have Baker, you have Dalvin Cook, and I immediately go to a place where I see if I'm improving at any position, and I don't see it. I don't see it here. I think Baker and Matt Ryan are about the same. I see Mike Evans is a good receiver, but when I look at tiers, right, I put Dalvin Cook in that top tier of running backs, if not the best running back in the league right now with Christian McCaffrey hurt and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
J.D. McKissick, that's a throw-in. There's two guys in front of him getting the ball in Washington. So with Gibson. So to me, Mike, I don't think I make this trade because I'm not confident in Fournette or Boston Scott's production past this week. So it's that's a rough trade. I don't think I do it. What say you?
I would not do it either. I think Dalvin Cook is going to be the one piece. It's similar to Zeke in Dallas. It's the one piece you can count on week in, week out. So I'd stick with him.
Yeah.
We have another question here from Trey S. Thanks for joining us from YouTube. Full PPR. You got to choose one, Blake. Swift, Singletary, or Deontay Johnson if he's healthy, or Gio if Mixon is out.
Well, let me check some matchups here this week.
To me,
my gut tells me, and I don't know if this will be the popular take here. DeAndre Swift's going against the Colts, number one defensive league. He's out.
Nope, not doing it.
Singletary, who are the Bills going against? Let's take a look. Bills are playing New England. That's a favorable matchup. It's not great. It's not the worst. But here's the thing, Mike. The Titans are giving up over 25 points a game to opposing backfields in fantasy football.
Mm-hmm.
If Joe Mixon isn't playing this week, I'm probably going Gio Bernard here, as crazy as that sounds.
So I don't think it's that crazy. If he's out, it's similar to that how I was talking about Chase Edmonds, the Kenyon Drake injury being so important, right? He's going to get all the touches. He's going to get a lion's share of those touches, and that's where I think. And that offense moves. I mean, their defense gives up points. That offense moves the ball. To me, it's like an ideal situation. If you're a Gio owner and you didn't have Mixon, or if you mix in, you handcuffed yourself well with Gio, I think he's a great play.
Yeah, no, I that's the way I would lean. Deontay Johnson, I'm not real confident he plays this week, and even more so, they're going against the Ravens, who have some studs in the secondary, and just added another pass rusher in Yannick Ngakoue. So Big Ben's not going to have the time that he probably did the last time they played this team. So as crazy as it sounds, out of all those names, I would probably go Gio Bernard.
Okay, we had another one coming in. What's up, ISO? Thanks for joining us. Oh wow. Would you go Rojo or Deontay Johnson this week at flex?
At this point, and I don't mean to cut you off, Mike, Ronald Jones is a must start in every league.
I agree. So I don't love that. I think Tampa Bay is going to dominate that game. We had another question earlier on that should they sit Fournette when I was commenting on McCoy. No, you should not sit Fournette, and you should not sit Rojo. I think they're in a plus situation. I think the game flow might dictate that they don't get the big boom game, but I think they're still going to get their points. They're going to get 10 to 15.
See, that's where you and I differ, my friend. I am almost out on Leonard Fournette, and I've had Leonard Fournette since he was a rookie in my dynasty league. I haven't let him go, and this might be the year where I'm done. I'm done.
Really?
I am done, man.
He had a good week this last week. He got a lot of touches in this stretch.
He is just so streaky. It's unbelievable.
I agree there.
So
he went for 11. He had 11 attempts, 50 yards, 15 points this last week. So he was quality there.
Mine is consistency with him. He has a week like that, and you get all hot and bothered, and then you stick him in there this week, thinking, "Oh, he's playing the Giants. This is a surefire bet," and he rolls off for 0.8 points. I just can't. I can't do it with him anymore.
My worry there is there could be a bust game, right? He is
Yep.
not getting the initial carries, and if they get to the second, third quarter and they're up 3 scores, do they start going to McCoy? Do they start going to these younger guys? Yeah. What I was going to say, then we had one last question with Super Trade. Can we do this? Do you think we can fit this in, Blake? You good with it?
Yeah, let's do it.
We have a keeper league here.
Okay.
You have CeeDee Lamb, Michael Thomas, and Josh Allen for Watson or McCaffrey. Who do you take there?
For Watson or McCaffrey, or Watson
and McCaffrey. Sorry, not or. I mean, I think I go Lamb, Thomas, and Allen. I mean, those are 3 starters in the next few years. Is what I expect out of CeeDee Lamb's
I think
talent.
CeeDee Lamb is the next coming DeAndre Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think Michael Thomas, when not being an idiot, is the best receiver in the National Football League.
Yeah.
So now the question becomes with Michael Thomas, there was a crazy rumor this weekend that he was going to get traded. I don't see that happening. But the problem with Michael Thomas is who's going to be throwing him the ball after the next year or two.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's Jameis, okay. I mean, he could probably suffice.
Yeah.
Taysom Hill, no. I mean, unless you're going to start running Air Force's offense. So it's one of those things where you could flip a coin on that. I mean, Watson and McCaffrey are, McCaffrey's top 3. I think we'd all agree there.
Yeah.
Watson, when he has the pieces, I think he can be top 5. But Josh Allen's a top 5 quarterback this year.
Yep.
And Michael Thomas, when healthy, is probably the 1 or 2. And CeeDee Lamb, I really think, will be top 10 with a healthy quarterback. I see they followed it up with who's throwing to CeeDee Lamb. and that's a great point for this year. But we're talking a dynasty league. We're talking a keeper league.
Yep.
You got to think years into the future for this sort of stuff. And right there, if it's a 2-receiver league, you got your 2 receivers for the next 10 years.
Yep. I'm with you.
That's the way. Because I remember, like in my dynasty leagues, there come a point in time where I had Calvin Johnson, Dez Bryant, and Gronk at the heights of their careers. Yeah. I mean, if you can get yours set like that and have it for, and especially if it's a league where you don't have to throw them back after so many years, like our dynasty leagues, there's no limit to how long you can keep them. Like I had Calvin Johnson from his first catch to his last catch. Wow. So if it's one of those situations where you don't have to throw them back, yeah. But if you're resetting a clock or something and bringing in Watson and McCaffrey, then that's a different conversation to be had. But I think if it's a league where you can keep them till eternity, then I think you stay with what you got.
Yep.
So, Michael, we got some great shows ourselves over at Big Play. Be sure to give our main account a follow at BigPlay_com. That's where you will find us. The Working the Wire podcast, our social handle at WTW_podcast for all of your fantasy football needs. We tweet out the show, different parts of the week, different segments. We tweet out on Sunday any questions or anything folks have. Use that hashtag you see right there. Yeah, there.
Yeah, there you go.
Ask WTW. We are more than happy to help out all the playmakers, help you win your leagues and do well this week. But speaking of Big Play, Mike, like I said, Mondays we got the Yacht Club, Blitz Football, the Big Play Cleveland Reflog Show. Tuesday, Birdland BS, our guys over there, Scott and Fred in Maryland doing everything. Baltimore, I know they're excited about the Ravens. You obviously have us here at 9:30. Wednesdays, Nick Padone on Padone My Take. Thursday in the backfield with Peyton Hillis. And then Sunday, the newbies, voice of the land after the Cleveland Browns. And Mike, maybe some news coming up for an additional show coming up on Thursdays here before too. Little foreshadow.
Okay. Just dropping it on them a little bit.
Just dropping it on them. So.
All right. I like it.
But as always, guys, you can follow me at Big Play Blake on Twitter. Michael is at Big Play Beats. Anything else for the playmakers, my man?
YouTube, everywhere. Give us likes, follows. We really appreciate it. We got a sub today. Twitch. We can't thank you guys enough. We'd love it. Keep sending the questions. Send them at hashtag AskWTW. We'd love getting into it. Sunday morning, you're not sure what to do, send us some. Blake's been really owning that well. Hit us up, you guys. We'd love it. That's what I got, Blake. Yeah. Nice job tonight. I love it.
I appreciate it, buddy. And to echo what you just said, the one thing when we created this show, because let's face it, we had the Big Play podcast, we moved into this format. Mm-hmm. We wanted to be help helpful to the playmakers.
Yep.
So we didn't want to just sit up there and spew a bunch of crap they didn't want to hear. We want to actually be involved, be helpful, help you bring a championship home this season. Well, as always, good luck this week, everybody. We will catch you next